This video is about photographing people and portraits. It's one chapter from the Creating Better Photos course, which is a simple guide on how to take more successful photographs with any camera. Creating Better Photos is full of easy to follow guidelines and tips for everyone. Meanwhile, back to the portraits. One of the most popular subjects of all in photography is that of people. And some of the principles discussed in previous chapters can be applied when photographing people or doing portraits. Starting with close-ups, filling the frame with the subject's face should be avoided if the camera has only a slightly wide-angle lens, or the facial features will become distorted. If the camera has a zoom lens, then a longer lens size should be used in order to avoid this problem. When taking a portrait in the sunshine, avoid having the light from over your shoulder and directly on the subject's face. The light can look harsh and unpleasant, and the subject will probably be squinting with the sun directly in the eyes. In fact, a portrait can be helped with the sun partly behind the subject. The camera will expose for the shadow area, and there can be some attractive highlights around the head and hair. In the chapter on close-ups, we looked at the framing of subjects, and the same situation can arise when taking photographs of people. It's not uncommon to have the top of people's heads cropped out of the picture. This is due to the frame inside the viewer not always being an accurate representation of the area the lens will be seeing. Do a simple check to make sure all the person is included in the image, and maybe you have to leave a little extra space around the subject to avoid the loss of Auntie's head. Some cameras and mobiles identify faces in the viewer, making a visual check much easier. Portraits don't have to be all of the face only, or even just head and shoulders, but can be a full-length figure. When photographing full lengths or nearly full lengths, we start to include the surroundings and environment. The figure can be in the foreground of the scene, which can have depth as a landscape or street scene. As a background, try using a horizon with an expanse of sky, a large spread of daffodils, an avenue of trees, an imposing or historic building, or simply a street stretching away into the background. Such situations will involve the atmosphere of the area and give useful depth to the picture. Wherever you are, a simple background often works best. The subject can be placed within their workplace, and people with hobbies and special interests are often more comfortable within those surroundings. How about a bookworm surrounded by his books? A horseman with a well-groomed horse? A daughter practicing in a dance studio? A model maker in his workshop? Or in a summer chair among the strong features of a garden? Most people don't like being photographed, so a couple of extra points should be borne in mind. Get the camera ready before beginning to take a photograph of people. Switch it on, check the battery, take a quick snap of a wall to make sure it's ready. Photograph people quickly. As a contradiction of one of the rules stated earlier, once the camera is taken out, when photographing people, it's best to photograph as quickly as possible before anyone becomes too self-conscious. The modern automatic cameras are a great help here. Exposure and focusing take place instantly the shutter button is pressed, and this avoids embarrassing delays while the photographer fumbles with the controls. Even so, composition and the snapping should be done without any unnecessary delay. Being photographed was great fun for these boys, but there was only a second or two to take the picture while they were still keen. Along with this, it helps to keep the subject animated either by friendly chat or by getting him or her to do some slight activity. If there are two people, they could talk and walk together, or play with a dog, or the proud relative could be playing with a child. Don't ask people to smile. If you want people to smile, don't ask them to smile. It's likely to look wooden. If you can't make them laugh with witty chat, wear a Mickey Mouse hat with wobbly ears. Outside, a person can be very useful to show scale. A high waterfall or rock face might have little impact on its own, but once a person is placed in the scene, the size of the environment becomes clear and more powerful. Black and white images are unusual today, but they can be effective concentrating attention on the subject rather than any bright colours in the scene. A little more planning can be required, as it's not simply a case of removing all the colour later. A mid-green and a mid-red might separate well in colour, but in black and white they can look the same grey and will appear to merge into each other. When considering the person's clothes and the setting, think more in midtones rather than colours. Babies, small children and animals are best photographed at their own level. Now, I don't have a single baby photograph, so the neighbours' cats will have to do as illustrations. Photographing the baby as it grows and develops is a must for most parents. Babies are usually lying down, of course, so at that stage need to be photographed from above, or better still, held by a relative or bounced on a knee. Soon they are crawling, wobbling and running around. It is much more successful to photograph them from their own level, which means getting down on the floor or grass to be at an equivalent height, so get those knees and elbows dirty. If photographed from high up, a child is likely to look too small in the picture, and much of their character and expression will be lost. An uncluttered background is best to avoid too many distractions away from the main subject matter, the child. The same approach works when photographing the family cat or dog. A much closer contact will be made with the animal if it's photographed from its own height. Photograph your pet where it's most comfortable and in its favourite spot. Most animals like to play, so catch it while it's having fun. The same lighting guidelines for people apply to pets. Bright natural light is best, often without strong sun, and never use a flash. It'll look too harsh and will spoil shading and true colour. A willingness to snap quickly is helpful here also, as not too many animals accept a great deal of direction when asked to pose, and a pet's characteristic antics might only last a few moments. With a willingness to shoot quickly, there must also be patience. Most animals are independent creatures, so to a large extent you will have to fit in with their ways. This Indian wedding party was happy and lively, complete with marching band. Many parties and social evenings are going to be indoors, and invariably result in someone picking up a camera. Because of the low light levels indoors, the camera's flash will automatically come into use. The good old red eye has often been the cause of a joke in the past. Due to the reflecting of the flash off the back of the retina, many cameras now have an automatic function which avoids this. The rather harsh light from the flash has to be accepted under these circumstances, but the general atmosphere of the shot can be helped by snapping fairly quickly to keep things spontaneous. Ensuring the subjects are suitably relaxed and animated is often not too difficult on what is likely to be a lively occasion. In some cultures, cameras are viewed with suspicion or dislike. Many people don't like being photographed, so always ask permission first. If you don't speak the language, use sign language. In most Arab countries they will refuse, so accept that decision. While in India people usually don't mind and children love it. If you are interested in street photography, a keen eye and quick reactions are important. The camera must be ready, and you often have just a couple of seconds to see, frame and click, like here with these tourists enjoying a classic telephone box. In summary, let people be animated. Photograph people more quickly than other subjects. Use the light and involve the environment. If you want a more in-depth look at taking great portraits, this site is worth a visit. There's a link right under this video.